Welcome to the Student Success Stories podcast, the podcast where we spotlight academic success at Baylor University. Today we have Griffin Gumm talk with us about the differences between learning online and in person. We also talk about self-motivation and how to power through times when you might feel burnout. Stay tuned for this and much more. Welcome to the Student Success Stories podcast. We're here with Griffin. You're a sophomore, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're taking mostly in-person courses this semester, or was that last semester?
Mostly last semester I only had one online class. I think I was in one hybrid, maybe two. And then this semester I am in one online class. I think two hybrid again.
So mostly in person.
Yeah, mostly in person again.
Okay. Cool. If you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what your major is, anything you want to tell us.
I'm Griffin Gumm. I'm a sophomore, pre-business student. I plan on majoring in sports strategy and sales, with the marketing track. I'm also going to get a certificate in data analytics, which kind of goes in hand with the sports strategy and sales S3. And then I'm also a pre-law student. I love sports, as you can see by my major. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Wow. Okay. You have a lot going on. A lot of time in the business school, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah. Most of my classes now are in the business school.
Love it. I haven't been able to be back on campus at the business school just because I haven't had any in-person classes there yet, in the past year, but I miss it a lot. It's so pretty.
I know. It's such a pretty building. That's why I came here in the first place.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I want to say it's award winning. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I visited Florida, I remember, and I was planning on going there, and I was like, wow, business school is pretty nice here. And then I went to Baylor, and I was just blew me away. I was shocked.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So I guess we can just get started with these questions. What has been the most surprising challenge to online learning that you've encountered?
To me, and I think that with most people, this is probably the problem. It's just motivation. Whenever you go into class and you're going to school and you have that strict schedule and it makes you get up and go and it makes you learn. And I think with online, it's kind of all on you. It's all on your shoulders. With teachers just posting lecture videos for a week, and it's really all on your shoulders to learn and to gain knowledge for the class. And I think just some people, it's troubling just for them to get up and be oh, I'm going to watch this video today. And maybe they're just oh, I want to do something else. And I feel that's probably the hardest problem to overcome.
Yeah, it's all self accountability, and it can be difficult sometimes to motivate yourself to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if that looks like leaving your house and finding a place where you can watch those videos that your professors uploaded uninterrupted. Sometimes it's hard at home when you're with your roommates or I don't know, other distractions. Is there anything you wish you knew about online learning before you started?
For me, in my life, I would say I just kind of take everything as it comes. And none of us knew anything that was about to happen. I was already on spring break in San Diego, and whenever all that hit, I saw that the NBA just canceled its season. And I was just what? That's never happened ever. And for me, it's kind of I don't know what I would tell myself beforehand. How would I react to it? Because I just feel that was that's never happened ever. No school's ever just been strictly online. And I kind of just took it to heart, and I just kind of absorbed everything. I don't. Yeah, that's a hard question because that's kind of how I operate my life. I would say is just kind of letting everything come to me and having a good attitude about it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is that we didn't really know how long this online situation would be going on for. So I think for myself, I didn't really take it that seriously at first. I was oh,
Yeah,
maybe school will be back in a few semesters. There's no way that it'll last this long. So I didn't really think about how the pandemic was going to affect my academic life, more just like my personal life. But yeah, it's definitely made things different. Is there any ways that you stay motivated for your online courses where it might be harder to, be held accountable by your professors, like you were talking about?
Um, to me, it's just like kind of like just the will to learn, I would say. Um, like just it is like to me now, like since I've adjusted and like you said, like you just kind of like at first in online classes, it's kind of like, yeah, it's going to be easier. Like maybe I can just like kind of slack off a little bit and kind of get answers online or something like that. But like it does come down to like just having a good attitude about it and like maybe just applying yourself from the get go. And then you can get the most out of the class, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any like methods that you found for, staying motivated and like really, making yourself do that work and like watch those videos that your professors send you in?
So for me, it was just like staying on top of like deadlines and due dates and like really adhering to what your professors laid out. Cause I think that's probably number one, just like trusting in what your professor like has laid out for you and like what she structured. Because I mean, obviously all this is on short notice. Even I feel like last semester and this semester, it's still pretty fresh and new. It's been like still less than a year since COVID struck. But I mean, for me, it's like I'm thinking about like my economics class last semester. It's just like she would have like each chapter and structure into 1 week, and like she'd have her videos, and like we don't have any quizzes or anything. It would just be a test for like 3 or 4 chapters. And
Mhm.
to me, it was just staying on. Well, we did have homework. We had homework once a week, but it was just like staying on top of the homework, getting that done, like at least a day or the day of advance, like the day of, and just adhering to that strict schedule of like I have to do this chapter this week, and then just making sure that you're staying on top of it because um, it's kind of like that is the simulation of the classroom, I guess. Like that's going to class, like just staying on top of like each chapter each week instead of getting behind because I think that's kind
Yeah.
of probably the worst like thing you could do is, and that's what causes stress,
Mm.
and that's kind of what causes like maybe a poor performance in the classes. You're just not learning as you go, and then you get maybe you're hung up on something, but it's too late to kind of rehash it.
Mm. Or it just, piles up.
Yeah.
For one of my marketing classes this semester, one of the like components of it is that you have to complete these Cengage modules. And when I went to go complete them, like the very first week of school, I noticed that none of them had due dates, like none of them. So I was like, oh, no due dates. But actually, I've been keeping on top of them every single week because that will pile up and just,
Yeah.
really, you know, cause problems later on. So yeah, I get that a lot. Um, do you feel like you spend the same amount of time on your in-person classes in comparison to your online classes, or does it kind of just depend on the class?
Yeah, I would say definitely fluctuate. Just fluctuates between what kind of class it is. Like my accounting class for financial, like that was like one of the most like maybe since like calculus and like AP calculus in high school, like the most amount of work I've had to do in a class, and I only met one time a week, and like that, the amount of time that that took up was like I was doing that like 4 to 5 hours a week at least. Um, and that's just like I had to watch those videos, and you can't yeah, like we were talking about, you can't let it pile up and like stack up because that class is very strict and like it does add up like each chapter. So
Mm,
I would say that it just depends on the class, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah, it might depend. Um, how do you feel like you are still connected with your peers and your professors in your online classes? And do you have any ways to stay connected even when you're online?
I would say like that is something that lacks like a lot. And I think that's I actually talked to my roommates about it a little bit like what if like we just like went online like forever like and that's just how it was. And like I think that being able to like be in person with people and like just having that face to face interaction and like being able to grow your social skills, like that was a huge part of just being in class. And like online, that's completely absent. Like I knew some friends in like my economics class last semester, um, but I didn't meet anybody new really. Like I saw we had like some breakout rooms and stuff, but I don't remember any of their names or anything, and because I didn't really even see their face. Um, and like even in accounting, like my hybrid classes, like it was hard. Like you only like you kind of just click together with the people I would say more than if it was just fully in person. I feel like you kind of because you just kind of get to meet more people. Like since you're in class more, you just interact more face to face. So I would say like yeah, that is a really big challenge. Like even in my I'm in one class right now. Um, I think it's the level 3 QBA class, and like I don't know anybody like really that's in my like exact class. Like I just know my roommate. That's really it. So
Yeah, I found myself like dealing with the same thing this semester too, because we're still learning online. If I have a question about a due date or like an assignment, and it would be super convenient to just ask one of my like classmates, hey, do you know when this is due? But like because it's online and because you're not really interacting with these people, you can't ask them. So there's just a lot of hindrances in that way. So it is really sad, and yeah, it's hard to overcome. I know some people like meet over Zoom and like use the Navigate app to do the study buddies thing, yeah, but sometimes it just doesn't cut it. Do you have any tips for students that are learning in the pandemic now, or if yeah, just learning online in general?
um, I would say like when we talked a lot about like just the motivation and like your desire to just keep up with it and like stay on top of your things, like being really diligent. That's the most important, but it's also like the way you get to that diligence and that motivation is like you have to like to me you have to have a purpose of like my dream job is to like work for a sports front office and like be a general manager, and like that kind of keeps me motivated every day in my studies because like I'm just like, well, I mean I have to do good in this class in order to it's just going to help me get to that goal. Like I could do bad, but that's just only going to make it harder on myself to reach that goal. Um, and I feel like just having that in mind every day and like that just keeps you motivated, and like that's really like the foundation of keeping you going. And like because without a purpose, it's like why are you here? Like what are
Yeah,
you doing? And I feel like that's maybe leads some people to like getting lost and kind of just slacking, and not maybe just because like they're not it's not and it has nothing to do with like being smart or anything. It's just like having a purpose every day with what you're doing.
yeah. What would you say to students in college that like might not be so sure about what their purpose is? They're not sure about their major. How do they stay motivated that way?
um Actually, one of my friends like he's been kind of struggling, one of my roommates in school, and I think he just actually like started like he had a long conversation with his mother, and like I think whenever you kind of feel like you don't have a purpose like in school, or like you don't have that dream or your goal, your major identified, which I feel like a lot of students are like my age do, like they don't really know what they want to do yet. um I would just probably just think about your family and like everything that it took to get you here to where you are, and like the people that kind of supported you like throughout your whole childhood and brought you to this point, because I mean I think any of us in this situation, like we did not get here by ourselves, whether it was a great teacher that helped you learn a lot, or um, yeah, your mother, your father, your brother, sister, like just thinking about those people and how they helped you get to your point here and how excited they would be to see you have success at this point.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's good advice. I think I agree with that. Well, thank you for being on the podcast today with us, Griffin. Lots of good advice from you. Thank you for your time and being on time and sharing your knowledge.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me, Abigail. It was good meeting you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Student Success Stories podcast.
You can listen to our previous episodes on iTunes, or you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Student Success Stories. Would you like to be featured on the podcast? DM us on Instagram. Thank you for listening, and sick and bears.